Real quick, just want to say to you guys that the Make Konoha Great Again merchandise is back up on the Naruto Explained Teespring with a 10% off promo code called MKGA. So don't be afraid to bring the meme to life. We got t-shirts and hoodies as well as other material for the Naruto Explained channel. But with that being said, let's get back in today's video. The second Hokage, Tobirama Senju, is oftentimes called a racist by a large number of Naruto fans, but not because he looks over at the Hidden Cloud Village and thinks that their skin color is just a little too dark, but instead because Naruto fans have created this narrative of him that he hates the Uchiha clan. Over the years, it's produced some pretty hilarious memes, some of which I'm even guilty of sharing myself, and I've even sold merchandise memeing Tobirama as a racist. But is there really any truth to the allegations that Tobirama is racist towards the Uchiha clan? After all, with so many fans having jumped to this conclusion that he's a racist, there must be some truth to it, right? Well, in today's Naruto Explained video, I want to tackle the question surrounding the duality of Tobirama Senju, a man who people will say in one breath has the most transformative run as Hokage, and in the next breath they will say he's the most racist Hokage, and explore how this misconception of Tobirama as a racist has actually tainted his legacy as Hokage. It's actually at that last point that I want to start. In recent years, we've seen how remarks that people say or behavior that they have towards a group of people, in particular a group of disenfranchised people like a minority, has led to them getting exposed on social media, causing them to lose jobs, and directly impact their way of life moving forward. Wherever they go seeking future employment, their past actions, they will get brought to light. It will always be something that they have to answer to, and while Tobirama's not a real person, to a degree he suffered the same fate at the hands of the Naruto fandom. He's a man who created the Flying Raijin Jutsu, created many infamous forbidden jutsu like the Edo Tensei, and created the foundation for so much of what we see in Naruto. The police force in the village, that was Tobirama. The current model of the Ninja Academy, that was Tobirama. The Chunin exams, that was also Tobirama. Yet at some point in every conversation, it comes into question regarding is Tobirama a racist, and oftentimes the knee-jerk reaction by a lot of fans is a resounding yes. However, I don't think we can truly call Tobirama a racist, and I think a large part of the fandom misusing that word is because of how we've allowed internet memes to run unchallenged by critical thinking. Racism is defined as showing prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism towards a person or people on the basis of their membership in particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. Just looking at that definition, I don't think we can call Tobirama a racist. Did he mistreat the Uchiha clan? That's actually debatable, and we will have that debate in this video, but for now I want to focus on the why behind his actions towards them. What a lot of people mistakenly call racism by Tobirama is actually him being in character and being cautious of all people. Even as far back as his childhood with Hashirama, just based on their interactions, we see that Hashirama is more of the optimistic, the glass is half full type of a person, whereas Tobirama is the more logical one to say that the glass is half empty. He was suspicious of Madara and Hashirama hanging out, even before there was confirmation that Madara was a member of the Uchiha clan. Tobirama actually tells us something in the manga that debunks this whole Tobirama is a racist conversation when you actually read the conversation he had with Sasuke closely. He literally tells us he doesn't hate the Uchiha. He says he made it a point to keep his eyes on any clan that threatened the peace within the village, but even then there were times where his eyes lingered specifically on the Uchiha. He didn't target them thinking that they would one day turn on the village, because he says that Uchiha like Itachi and Kagami, they weren't exceptions. They weren't exceptions to the rule for pure-hearted Uchiha who could be trusted to put the village before their clan. He literally tells us there were several other members of the Uchiha clan who had that line of thinking during his time as Hokage. However, due to how the Warring States era brought him up and how coldly logical Tobirama was, he saw the divide between the two lines of thinking that the two founders of the village had. Hashirama and Madara both brought something different to the table, and they both were not able to see the full picture. Hashirama was naive, thinking that all these random clans, including sworn enemies like the Uchiha, would be able to coexist inside the same village without there being friction, and Madara was too skeptical that it could work, and Tobirama took the approach to split the baby down the middle, seeing that there were issues on both sides, which it should be worth noting that Madara, while he might have been the first Uchiha to turn against the village, believing the clan would be ruined under the rule of the Senju, Madara was not the last Uchiha from that era to turn against the village. village. A few years after Madara leaves the village after Hashirama's death, we learn in Naruto Databook 3 that Setsuna Uchiha had plotted to overthrow Tobirama's Hokage as well, which is backed up by Obito when he's telling Sasuke the history of the clan in volume 43. We see Setsuna Uchiha shown when Obito says there were other Uchiha who came around to Madara's line of thinking. Tobirama would have known that there was a growing number of Uchiha beginning to take Madara's approach. It would have been something that concerned him. At first, it was the Uchiha not wanting to join Madara because they were tired of all the constant fighting. But now there were Uchiha beginning to believe that Madara was right, that they wouldn't have any real say in the governing of the village that they helped found. And part of what Tobirama attempted to do to call that growing concern among what wasn't a majority of the Uchiha but a growing and vocal minority was to actually place them with the police force. The duty to keep the peace within the village, thinking that if they were given that opportunity, the resentment would go away. It would be a sign of trust. After all, they would be given the duty of watching over the village and prevent those from within the village from doing things that might unravel the very peace that the village had, that those two clans had shed blood in order to form. However, as Orochimaru stated, this had the opposite effect, because being made into police officers for the village didn't necessarily do them any favors with the other people in the village. Tobirama had thought that by giving the Uchiha something bigger than themselves to be a part of, a more hands-on role within the village, that he would be able to win favor with the Uchiha, yet all he truly done is isolate a group of people who were worried that they were being left out on purpose. He isolated them even further. That's not being a racist so much as it's an indictment on his poor error of judgment. With a group as emotional as the Uchiha, that's the last thing you want to do. And as we know, this one decision would result in generations of growing resentment with the clan. To a degree, it's almost as bad as the original sin that was Madara Uchiha leaving the village. The reason being is that Tobirama, after living in the same village with the Uchiha people who just a few years ago he would have been hunting down and killing them, Tobirama saw up close and personal that the Uchiha, they were a clan that wasn't too unlike his own clan, in that both possessed a strong capacity for love and an even stronger sense of loyalty. However, Tobirama, due to having seen both the Dr. Jekyll side of the Uchiha and the Dr. Hyde side of the Uchiha, one dangerous and one compassionate, his response was to give them what he thought was an olive branch. Again, we know in hindsight that was the wrong move, but at the time his line of thinking was actually quite logical if you look at it again and you remove hindsight. Tobirama tells us that the Uchiha are an incredibly loyal people, going so far as to say there were several who could love the village more than they love their clan and see past the loyalty to the crest on their back to put the need of the village, whose symbol they wore on their forehead protectors, first. However, the Uchiha are also clouded by their emotions, and that is dangerous for an Uchiha because that loyalty and strong sense of love is also a curse for the Uchiha, a literal blood curse inside their genetics. The despair that comes from losing a loved one and not being able to protect a loved one awakened their Sharingan Kekkei Genkai, and if the despair is great enough, and there's some of those who the manga say are a small number of Uchiha with the potential to do so, they can awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, something that literally changes within the Uchiha when they fall into that level of despair. There's often this attempt for people to say that this is a Tobirama theory. However, this isn't a crackpot theory by Tobirama either. Taking out the fact that he's confirmed to have studied the clan, literally studied their bodies, Madara's own life backs up what Tobirama said. With each brother he lost in the Warring States era, something changed in him, and eventually losing Izuna caused him to spiral into a darkness so deep that he never truly recovered from it during the events of his first lifetime. Take a step back for a moment, set aside your own feelings for Tobirama, and look at the circumstances under which he was Hokage. He took over a village that had only been around for a few years by this point in the timeline, and during the events of the First Ninja War, which saw the first two generations of Kage all killed off during this time period due to the intense fighting, Tobirama not only had the enemy outside to deal with, but the changes that spark in the Uchiha when they experience loss were also a thing of concern just based off of what he'd seen at that point. In a time of war that deadly, the loss of life, it would be inevitable, and it was likely that several Uchiha who had the potential to awaken the Sharingan did so, which, as Sasuke tells us in chapter 12 of the manga, not every Uchiha even awakens the basic Sharingan. We don't have any confirmation in the manga of any Uchiha who had the Sharingan during that time period who also had the potential of awakening a Mangekyo Sharingan, but that had to have been something that was on Tobirama's mind with each Uchiha that was sent out to the battlefield, similar to what we see in Boruto, where Shikamaru, someone many people have compared to Tobirama in his approach to how he governs. Shikamaru took that approach with Boruto and Kawaki, going so far as to call them bomb brats, because he feared what could happen inside the village if one of them lost control. Tobirama didn't just have 1 or 2 bombs to worry about, he had an entire clan of potential bombs, only he didn't know which of them would be duds and which ones would be live bombs. We could call it fear, which technically it is. It's logical fear rooted in a statistical probability, which is that Madara wouldn't be the only Uchiha who changed and got lost in the darkness if they awake at the Mangekyo. There are already a growing number like Setsuna Uchiha who are walking down that path as it was. That is why I believe Tobirama took the time to study the bodies of the Uchiha who passed away to gain a better understanding. The knee-jerk reaction by some of you listening might be to say there was no need to study them when he could just interact with them and see who they were by talking to them, but it's important to remember the approach taken before we got the rosy sunshine times that Hokage Naruto has where people can sing happy songs together. A cold and more calculated approach was taken during this era where clans living together under one village was still fresh and new, and there was a literal war going on. The bodies of shinobi, as we're told in the Land of Waves arc and repeatedly throughout Naruto's manga, they are a treasure trove of secrets. There are some secrets that belong to the village, like figuring out what medicines and drugs the village give to their shinobi, which can be studied from the blood in the body, to literal secrets about clan Kekkei Genkai that can be gleaned from literally taking the Kekkei Genkai if it's a dojutsu like the Byakugan or Sharingan, or uncovering more data from looking at their bodies the way that Tobirama did, which is how he uncovered the change in the optic nerves of an Uchiha, likely comparing one set of Uchiha who had the Sharingan and another who hadn't awakened the Sharingan. Even clans like the Nara clan who have a hidden jutsu like the Shadow Possession Jutsu, if someone's able to read the mind and the memories of that dead body, they can learn the mechanics of how to perform that jutsu, because those aren't Kekkei Genkai. Anyone can learn them. Tobirama's fear, it was a well-deserved one, but it's also worth saying, for as correct as his fear was, he might have done well to set aside some of that cold logic for more of a compassionate approach like his brother possessed. He might very well have been doing a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point, but again, that's not racism. That's potentially being too smart for one's own good, being too logical for one's own good, because sometimes having all the information isn't necessarily the best thing for a person. Tobirama wasn't wrong. Statistically speaking, there was a chance of another Madara being born just because of the genetics of the clan. It's something that they struggle with. Even someone like Obito, who started out pure-hearted, Obito lost Rin and he spiraled down a dark path. Granted, he had Madara gaslighting him, but Obito's descent into madness started before he ever went to Madara, asking Madara to let him help with creating that world without winners and losers. Obito lost it and he slaughtered all the Miss Ninja at that point, and he was spiraling. Sasuke eventually lost his own way after losing his clan, seeing his brother kill his parents. Statistically speaking, another Madara being born out of the clan, it was inevitable, and Tobirama tried to confront that fear by making the wrong decision. In some ways, he's a lot like the old Targaryen kings, who had dreams of fire and ice and thought that the White Walkers would appear during their lifetime, and they began preparing for that threat. Sometimes knowledge without full context can be a dangerous thing that leads to terrible outcomes. Case in point, how the war between the blacks and the greens in the Targaryen civil war broke out. Even if it wasn't the intention of the one that had the knowledge to cause that conflict, it still happened. Thus, it's the same with Tobirama and his actions and his decisions towards the Uchiha clan. Perhaps you can call it fear born out of having faced the Uchiha in battle, constantly fighting in life and death battles against them during the Warring States era, seeing countless of his siblings being killed after they engaged in battles with the Uchiha. Perhaps you can call it fear born out of seeing firsthand what happens when the Uchiha reaches the pinnacle of their power, that is the clan's Kekkei Genkai, which is what happened when Tobirama assisted in the battle with Madara, and he saw how utterly hopeless he was against Madara's perfect Susanoo, and that fear of another Madara only heightened when he realized that his brother Hashirama, the only person at that time who could challenge that power of that level, had passed away during the first Ninja War. Regardless of what you call it, you can't call that racism. You can't mistake racism towards the clan or deep hatred for the clan by his actions. Fear is something that you could argue, but not the other two. But you can't call it racism. If he was racist towards the clan, if he was in possession of hatred towards the clan, why did he entrust them with the sacred duty of protecting the village and the village's peace? If he hated the clan, was racist towards the clan, why did he take up one of them as his student? Are we suddenly supposed to believe that Kagami Uchiha was a Sambo type character, which is the correct word that people use when they call someone an Uncle Tom? People will oftentimes call someone Uncle Tom for being someone who appears is willing to put other people of another race before their own, yet it's really Sambo who identifies those traits if you actually read Uncle Tom's Cabin. So are we assuming that Kagami is a Sambo, someone who deferred to the Uchiha and got trained by a Senju, a Hokage, because he hated his group? It literally goes against what we were told, that he loved his clan and his village. Just it goes against Tobirama's character, call him racist. Tobirama as Hokage and his approach to the Uchiha has always been destined to fail. He was attempting to deal with a clan rooted so deeply in love with cold hard logic. Those psychological studies on the Uchiha and how their trauma-ridden world can cause the Uchiha to go from loving people to being consumed by hatred, a walking fuel for violence and revenge, a curse of hatred if you will. Cold hard logic does not work well with people ruled by emotion. That logic of Tobirama led to fear that bordered on being distrustful, something he said to a degree. There's a distrust for every clan in the village, but the Uchiha were the ones who kept giving him reasons to keep a closer eye on them. And if we're honest, he did try to fulfill Hashirama's promise when he swore to him to not mistreat the Uchiha and honor his will of fire by giving them the police force, thinking it will bring them closer ties to the village and curb the chance of another Madara being born. We can't fault Tobirama even for his distrust, simply because that was one of the messages that Naruto as a series was tackling, which is overcoming the cycle of hatred to find mutual understanding, which is why I find it odd for people to fault Tobirama for this when the story literally uses people from during that dark period of the Warring States era and the first Ninja War, people like Madara and Tobirama, relics of the past, and people like Nagato from the second Ninja War who were tainted by the horrors of the shinobi culture, and people like Kakashi who were in the third Ninja War and trying to slowly lift themselves out the pits of depression and despair that was caused by the deaths of close comrades, like Kakashi did when he thought he was the sole surviving member of his team. All of that was meant to lead us to the fourth and final Ninja War, where Naruto finally broke that cycle of hatred, not just between the reincarnates of Astra and Indra, but he broke it for a majority of the shinobi world. What we see in Tobirama is someone who tried to overcome any justified underlying resentment towards the Uchiha for killing his family in the Warring States era and the fear he had for another Madara being created and being unable to stop that other Madara because he was lacking the power of Hashirama. We see him try to overcome it by getting an understanding of them through their chemical imbalances and progression of the Sharingan and their direct strengths towards making a stronger foundation for the village and hoping to make them feel as if they are more of an integral part of the village, because Tobirama's legacy as Hokage was refining the foundation of the village to build a stronger military and testing system via the academy and the tuning exams. But while those young tree buds were blooming, the hope was that the Uchiha would continue to use their power to keep the peace until the next generation was ready. While it's easy to say that Tobirama is responsible for Danzo because Danzo misunderstood Tobirama's actions, we can't in one breath mention Danzo while not mentioning the third Hokage and Kagami Uchiha, two people who came up underneath Tobirama. While Hiruzen made mistakes in how he handled the Uchiha to a point he got outfoxed by Danzo, who backed Itachi into a corner to massacre the clan, Kagami was an Uchiha who put the village first and the clan second and was one of several during Tobirama's time as Hokage. We can describe Tobirama's stance towards the Uchiha as many things, but racist isn't one in my opinion. While I don't think this is gonna kill the memes of Tobirama's racist, and I'll probably meme it on the thumbnail, I'm gonna relaunch that Make Konoha Great Again merch by the time you guys see this video. It's my sincere hope that anyone who does think that Tobirama's actually racist has had their heart swayed just a tiny bit as a result of this video. If you enjoyed this video essay, make sure to check out these other video essays you see on the screen right now.